So this was a picture I shot recently while I was having lunch with my daughter. We were eating Indian food. I was eating biryani and she was eating prata. So this is what I'm going to be drawing today. I chose this picture because it will demonstrate how I use perspective as I draw and how I draw people as well. As you can see, there's some flags outside my window. And you can see the flags and banner in the picture as well because it was recently Singapore's National Day. Alright, so this is going to be a quick sketch of this Indian coffee shop around my neighborhood. As you can see, this is my daughter's arm here. Okay, so first I'm going to divide the scene into a few big shapes and again telling myself not to care so much. It's not so important about every detail. It's more about the shapes. And I'm holding my pen further up so that it's more flexible and I'm not too uptight about things. Oops, now this is totally messed up. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. Just getting the proportions right. Holding it loosely. Combining all these people into one big shape. Including the chair. Okay, so I'm going with a midground, foreground and background. So my daughter's arm is in the foreground here. So I'm going to combine it, her arm with the table here. And it comes down to here. Okay, now I'm going to deal with the background. Let me see. It comes out from this guy's shoulder. Goes up there. And then comes here. Now these are a bunch of parallel lines, so I'm going to roughly figure out where the I'll probably be somewhere around, well, if I look at here, let me see if I do this angle here, let me see, roughly here, and if I follow the lines, it would be somewhere around here. Okay, so this is my messed up sketch, so it's gonna be roughly there. Okay, so I'm just gonna aim my parallel lines there. Hopefully it's more or less in that spot. And with the perspective point in place, it kind of makes it a lot easier because then I just follow my pen along towards that point and then I just draw, like these are the banners. Just very roughly. Okay. So when I'm doing this, I'm usually just aligning my line to the perspective point. And there's a bunch of shapes there. Alright, so this one here comes down. And there is a little camera there. Yep, I didn't miss out this little detail. I'm not gonna get lost in the details. I could get lost in the guy's features too. So let me just handle the big, let's just tackle the big shapes right now. So there's this chair here. Here. There's another chair here. Okay, now let's just cut this guy out. Here. Get this white part here. Now for the body shape, I like to just cut out the arms and heads. Usually just by cutting out the arms and heads of a person, the figure comes out a lot more recognizable already. He's holding a papadam. Okay, let me just get the table there, because table is important. Okay, let's get his arm first. His arm is just trying to get the whole thing first before I separate the fingers. Separate the fingers is just a bunch of, it's just a bunch of lines. So sometimes you just get the whole outer shape of the hand first, then just use lines to separate the fingers. I find that a lot easier. Getting the shirt shape, and looks like his whole head is in silhouette. So, well, I can color it later or I'll color it now. I guess it doesn't matter too much, but of course I'm trying to get all the big shapes first. Alright, now let's just get my daughter's arm here. Combine it to plate so the positioning, it's more in place. Okay, let me see. Get the arm here. These little fold lines just communicate how the form is. Okay, let's just get the rice. Okay, just some details there. The spoon, getting the outer shape of it like that. Let me see. Okay, that's the guy's jeans, his pants. Again, the black shapes. Oops. Well, I guess I probably miscalculated this part here. Probably goes down a bit lower. But then again, if you don't compare it with the photo, nobody will know that you made that little mistake, or I didn't make that mistake. Okay, so now small details. Avoiding the small details, trying to finish up all the bigger, smaller shapes first. This one, just an impression of whatever is there. Again, this is a parallel line, so I'm just going to my finishing point. Some lines here. Just capturing the essential details. Not everything needs to be in focus. Not everything in the background needs to be really clear. So just an impression of it will do. Okay, okay, let's just do these guys' features first. Okay, so when it comes to I'm just gonna cut out the neck and head from the body, the nose, and the eyes, his mustache. I'm not really going for recognition of who this person is. I'm just capturing just the items on the face and body. So it's just about telling the story of what's happening here. 3 guys having lunch. It's not important who exactly these are. Okay, so you can see these shirt lines. I'm keeping my eyes and making sure that they kind of move in that direction, because that communicates how their arm is. It's moving forward. Okay, these are small things here. Again, little creases. See, we're just adding all these small details. It looks a lot more complicated. But doing it one step at a time keeps it really simple. Okay, a bunch of circles here. bit thick there. Okay, I don't have to capture everything, just so long as you can get the idea. I guess I'm putting blacks wherever the area of the main focus is, because blacks is an opportunity to create contrast around this area. So anything that I can interpret as solid blacks usually is a good idea. I do like Indian food because it's really tasty. But though I don't go for extremely spicy food, I go for more of the taste. Alright, so there are these lines on his shirt. I don't want them to overwhelm the form, so I'm just keeping them really thin, because a thinner line has less contrast, and these are actually gray lines, so maybe even broken lines might work. Or I could just, I could even do them as gray lines when I do the wash, but hopefully they don't overwhelm. Oops. So I could color my daughter's arm here really black, but I want the focus to be around here, so I'm not going to interpret this as black, at least for now. I don't think that's a good idea. I could add some detail here, but I want the details to be more here, so I'm not going to add in all the details there. I could add in some details here, but then again, these National Day details aren't really too important, so I'm just going to keep them very vague. Okay, how about details here? Seems to be something there. These are not too important to the story, so I'm just going to keep them also very vague. We're going to switch to this end. Alright, so let me see, I'm just going to, what's the most prominent one? Okay, goes to that vanishing point there. There's a thicker line here. There is, I guess nobody's gonna double check, so even if I get something a bit off, nobody will really know if they don't compare it to the picture. But of course you guys will know because you are looking at the picture. Okay, so all these are kind of they actually go to another vanishing point, but I'm kind of just drawing them as horizontal, but they are all, or the edges are all going towards the vanishing point, because the edges are following a parallel line. I don't have to draw in all the lines, because if I don't, not very sure, I'll just leave them, incomplete lines. When I leave them incomplete, they kind of suggest that something is there, but I'm able to keep it vague. I'm also keeping these lines really thin so that the contrast does not come out too much. Because these lines are black, a thicker black line means more contrast, and more contrast means people are going to be drawn to it more. Okay, so some of these lines are off, but I'm just keeping them really vague. Okay, so some small details. It's okay to omit some of these if you don't think they are important, but some small details can add some realism to the picture. I could do all these small tiles, but then again, it's not so important to the picture, so it doesn't matter if I do all the tile lines. So sometimes it's about interpreting or figuring out what's really important to your picture. Just realize some of these dots are, you can see through them, so some of them would be black. Okay, it's just the shadows. Here, let's say, trying to think, should I put a contrast there? If not, I could interpret this part as a dark mid-tone, and that could work too. All right, so let's do the lighter mid-tone first. Just using water brush this time, but of course you can use watercolor. I'm using a two-tone thing, and I noticed that this part is really bright, and I want these guys to stand out. So the contrast should be around this area. I can use the white to bring out the contrast. So I'm just gonna go with it. Let's see how it plays out. I'm using a complementary mid-tone today. I'm just gonna use a orange and a blue. Let me see. All right, let me just color this guy, making sure I preserve some of the highlights, which are white, because remember, this is my important area. I need white next to black for highest contrast, so I don't want to cover up all my whites. I mean, the light's coming from outside, so everything on the inside of the store will be darker. Okay, so here, so when it comes to my daughter's area, maybe I can give her a tiny bit of highlight, but that is as far as I'll go, because her arm is not the focus. Okay, there is some shine on the table here, and here, let me see, it's a lot of mid-tone, so I'm just gonna roughly fill it up as a mid-tone area. This is a shade, so it's not exactly highlighted, so I'm just gonna keep it really loose with a kind of a dry brush effect. Here, okay, there's a bunch of light and dark mid-tones here. I'm just gonna keep it loose with some dabs. Okay, so this handles most of the lighter mid-tones. Now for the darker mid-tones, I have a darker blue inside here, as you can see. Let me see what I'm gonna do about this. Okay, I'm gonna fill in here. All this is in kind of a shadow. As you can see, I'm painting over my lighter mid-tone, layering it over. Guess I can leave a lighter tone so that this guy kind of stands out, because he's one of my main characters here. These three guys are my main characters, leaving a lot of, yeah, more contrast around him. I'm wondering whether should I leave so much contrast. Maybe this part can have some mid-tones and not too much contrast, because I think these two guys are more important than this guy. I want this guy to be a bit knocked back. So I'm just trying to find all the darker parts. I'm not trying to get too many layers of tone, just trying to keep it really simple. And I'm squinting my eyes to figure that out. Any part that it's kind of distinctly darker, then that would be the darker mid-tone. So here, and I just interpret this whole chair except this top part as a darker mid-tone here. Now for my daughter's part, there's a highlight around her shoulder. So instead of interpreting this as black, I'm gonna interpret this as a dark mid-tone instead, because I don't want so much contrast since she's not the main character. Okay, so although this is a highlight here, I'm making this highlight into a lighter mid-tone so that there's less contrast. And there's some darker parts there, just keeping it very general. Now for this flag here, some dabs usually does the job when it comes to keeping things, just creating an impression. So this will represent the darker reds, and then just reinterpreting it, going by just dark and light. So even though it's red and I'm interpreting as blue, I'm just seeing how dark that red is and interpreting as a dark or light mid-tone. Okay, I think we're pretty much done. Don't want to overdo it. Do I want to put anything there? I can just interpret this as unfinished. I feel like if I added more midtones there, it might actually ruin it. I like the brightness that's coming out from there. Any midtone would probably, you know, make everything more complicated here. Probably, it's just wise to probably add more contrast here. Build up the contrast here whenever I can by adding any more solid blacks. Increasing the solid black areas would even make these guys stand out even more. And making sure the blacks are more filled out, because any white parts in the blacks would make the black less effective. Oh, there's a fan behind. I think that's good enough for me, so let's just add more rice here actually. Some contrast there. That allows him to stand out even more. Now I'm really gonna stop. Thanks for watching.